Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Leaders Matter conversation, Redistricting Crisis in the South. My name is Melissa Watson Ward, and I'm proud to serve as the Emerge Training Director. Thank y'all so much for joining us for this very urgent conversation about voting rights, representation, and democracy. Our president and CEO, Ashanti Golar, is sorry she could not be with us tonight. She is flying back from spending the week with attorney generals from across the country who are also fighting to protect our freedoms. For those joining a Leaders Matter event for the first time, thank y'all for being here. This series brings together women leaders who are tackling some of the most pressing issues facing our communities and our democracy. To those that this not your first time, thank y'all again for continuing to support Emerge. At Emerge, we believe representation and leadership matters. We are the nation's largest network of Democratic women elected officials and candidates with more than 7,000 alums trained to run for office and more than 1,200 Emerge women currently serving in elected office nationwide. Y'all, tonight's conversation comes at a very critical moment. Just days ago, the Supreme Court weakened key protections under the Voting Rights Act, opening the door for states across the South to quickly redraw congressional maps ahead of the midterm elections. We are already seeing serious implications for Black voters, representation, and political power across the region. The women joining us tonight are leaders on the front lines of these fights in their states, and all of our panelists are proud Emerge alums. These women are organizing, legislating, speaking out, and fighting back in real time. And later tonight, we are going to be honored to be joined by former Vice President Kamala Harris for a special call to action. So make sure you stay on for the entire webinar tonight. So again, thank y'all so much for being here, and let's get started. So I am going to bring our panelists up, and I'm going to ask that they briefly introduce themselves. And in their introductions, I would like for them to share, what's going on in your state currently in terms of redistricting. Particularly, let us know whether new maps have been passed or if you believe they will, and what are the ramifications for upcoming primary and general midterm elections, especially in states where candidates have already filed, ballots are in the mail, and in some cases, people are currently voting. So I want to start off with Louisiana State Representative Mandie Landry, where the case at the center of the Supreme Court decision originated.
Hi, everyone. I'm State Rep Mandie Landry in New Orleans, and we are voting right now. First of all, I apologize on behalf of my state for putting us all in the middle of this. It has been a roller coaster, but we are one of those states that we had started voting. We have the primaries. Actually, it's this weekend, some constitutional amendments, Public Service Commission, and then our governor declared a state of emergency. And so I went last weekend and voted for Troy Carter, and I've been told it's just going to be deleted. It is chaos here. People don't understand what's going on. We're afraid people are not showing up. On the other hand, we've had increased voter turnout since last week, in particular among Black voters, because everyone is pissed off about it. We were supposed to have all day today, our first committee meeting on the new maps. They changed it to 6 o'clock last night and heard the two map debates until 4:30 a.m. They're moving fast. They're moving fast in part because my colleagues don't want pushback and they don't want opposition and they don't like being called words like racist. And it has become a debacle. But we did pass a 5-1 map out. We had a 4-2 map. It is less bad than a 6-0 map, but this 5-1 is probably what's going to pass all the way through. And we just also passed something off the House floor that our qualifying for the November general will be in August. So we are moving. People are confused, but people are fired up in a way I have not seen in a very long time.
Well, thank you, Rep. Landry, for being able to take time to join us tonight. Now, I would like to hear or introduce Tennessee State Senator Lamar. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. And thanks to Emerge for having the opportunity to discuss what's happening in Tennessee. Currently, I serve as chairwoman of the Tennessee Democratic Caucus and the youngest African American and the youngest woman ever elected in Tennessee Senate history. And for me, what happened this today breaks the workup of my ancestor who's died and sacrifices their life to give me the opportunity to serve and so many members throughout our state to serve. So I want to start by telling you, I was in that chamber. I watched Republicans pass the map. We were the first state to pass the new redrawn congressional districts, and they have been signed into law. Now, currently, the bills are in courts. The NAACP has filed a lawsuit. Democratic officials have filed a lawsuit, including the state party. Our incumbent congressman has filed a lawsuit, but unfortunately, it's not looking good. But it will be the hearing be set for May 20th. However, until they rule, the maps are in play. We this week have reopened the qualifying deadline for candidates who have already qualified and new candidates to enter the race with the new redrawn districts. Now, I understand that's causing us a lot of voter confusion. People are upset. There is not enough time to really relaunch a lot of campaigns with 12 weeks until early voting starts for the congressional primary, but the ramifications are going to be very significant for people. But what we must do until we hear that court hearing, which I'm gonna be honest, it's not looking good. We have to make sure we are organizing. And that's what we're focusing on here in Tennessee is organizing. See, what people didn't think about is in their attempt to gain one more Republican seat to be a 9-0 instead of an 8-1 is that they didn't just create solid red districts. They now created two, three districts that are now more blue. So they were banking on Democrats to stay home. They are banking on Black people in Memphis to stay home. But the truth of the matter is, if we use this moment to register to vote, to turn out in record numbers, this plan will backfire. Instead of 9-0 Republican districts, we could have a 6-3 with three new congressional Democratic districts if they're not careful. And I'm going to do my part to make sure that happens. I pulled a petition for this new congressional seat. Why? Because this new seat deserves strong representation to call it what it is and to fight back against the Republican power grabs of Memphis and diluting the Black vote in Mid Tennessee, the only Democratic and the only majority African American district in our state. But be sure that what happened in Tennessee is a playbook for the rest of the nation. Some of our states stopped this week, but unfortunately, Tennessee didn't. So we're going to do everything we can to fight back and make sure we turn out our people to vote to bring our districts back.
Thank you so much, Senator Lamar. It's a lot going on. So thank you so much. Now we're going to introduce Alabama State Senator Merika Coleman. What is going on in Alabama?
What's not going on in Alabama? Let me start with the positive. I am fired up and ready to go. I am encouraged by the number of protesters that came to our special session. We just finished a special session on Friday, and now the number of people that are organizing to go to Montgomery on Saturday to say that we are not going back. We are not going down without a fight. So again, I'm State Senator Merika Coleman from Alabama. We have a little bit of a different situation in Alabama. We already had two court-drawn race-neutral maps for our congressional districts 2 and 7, and also two state senate districts, so to create some additional opportunity districts. And so what the Republicans in Alabama did, and we serve in a super minority out of 140 members, there's only 35 African Americans, only 39 Democrats. But what the Republicans did was they passed legislation, and then our governor ultimately signed legislation to revert us back to the old maps. And so for our congressional districts, so no, they didn't draw new maps. They were reverting us back. So for the congressional districts, reverting us back to the 2023 maps, and on the state senate districts, and that if that's not happening, y'all, now is coming next. It will revert back to the 2021 maps. So I'll stay on the congressional. The 2023 maps just has one Black member of Congress, Congresswoman Terry Sewell, no opportunity district. The map, the race neutral map that the court drew itself, gave an opportunity in a district that is not majority Black, but an opportunity for Black voters to choose the candidate of their choice. And they chose Congressman Shamari Figures His mother actually serves with us in the Alabama Senate and is one of our longest serving members at about 30 years. So that is what's happening in Alabama, and everything is ever changing. Like every time we turn around, something new is happening. We left Friday, then Friday night we heard that the three-judge panel denied the state's injunction because in our case, the Milliken case, the state of Alabama stipulated not to draw new maps until 2030. So that's why we really felt like we were safe. They stipulated to that. Well, what did Clarence Thomas do when it made it to the Supreme Court for his review? He sent it back to the lower court and changed the standard to say that now you've got to look at the Calais decision or the Louisiana decision in addition to what you all decided with the Milliken case. But in the dissent, I love what Justice Sotomayor and Justice Kagan, Justice Jackson, who all wrote that the Milliken case, that law should stand, and that there is an additional factor that was not included in these other VRA cases. The federal court found that the state of Alabama was deliberately discriminatory. They did it on purpose to dilute the Black vote. And now for Justice Thomas to say that, hey, look, let me give you all an opportunity. It was a good punch. But again, still very encouraged. This is the same three-judge panel that are Republican appointed. Two of them Donald Trump appointed, one Reagan appointee, who made the decision in their ruling to say that Alabama needed to or had to open up these opportunity districts. So it comes back to us now at the federal level, at the three-judge panel. The state has until Friday to prove to the three-judge panel that we have enough time for an election. Then our plaintiffs have an opportunity on the 18th to answer. So it's ever changing. By the time we finish this, I might have some additional information. But again, we are fired up and we're ready to go. One thing I can say about Black people everywhere, but especially in Alabama, these are my home folk. Every single time those folks try to put their foot on our neck, that's when we come out swinging and swinging hard. So the coalition, it's not just us. It's Black people, other marginalized communities, other people of color, the disabled, women, LGBTQ plus community, our senior citizens, all of this coalition of people. They're all saying this is unfair and we're not going back. I have to give a shout out in my intro to none other than Deanna Reed, D. Reed with Black Voters Matter. That is my little sister. She actually ran my Senate campaign and is now one of the regional organizers. Last week, she held with other groups, but she was the one that was singing when the state troopers pulled her from the gallery of the Alabama House of Representatives. Y'all, we've got to make them uncomfortable. Thank you, Dee Reed, for bringing national exposure to what's going on in Alabama. We need everybody around the country to join us, Southern states, and tell these Republicans we're not going back, and we are primed and ready for some good trouble, like our other Alabama native, John Lewis, said.
Yes, thank you, Senator Coleman.
Oh, I went over my minutes. I just saw it.
Thank you, Senator Coleman. No, that's a lot going on. Thank you. And to my home state of South Carolina, State Senator Tameika Devine, who also is in the thick of it right now.
No, absolutely. Thank you all. And ladies, I'm so happy to be with you guys. I say, it is frustrating, but it's good to know that there are other people in the fight in other states, and I know that we will prevail. But I'm State Senator Tameika Devine. I represent Senate District 19 here in Richland County, which is the capital seat of South Carolina, and we are in the thick of it. We're on the floor now, and I've got my people right here, so that we've got some votes happening now. But where we are is, so we currently have a 6-1 map. Our map was actually challenged after in 2022 when they drew these new maps. They gerrymandered it to give us a 6-1 the NAACP, League of Women Voters, actually sued the state, and it went up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And the U.S. Supreme Court actually affirmed our current maps and said that there was no racial gerrymandering. And so the map that they are currently now, based on the Calais decision, saying that they need to change, they have already, the state spent over $6 million defending this map, saying it was not racially gerrymandered, and the U.S. Supreme Court agreed with them on that. And so currently we have 6 Republican districts, and then one Democratic leaning district that is currently held by Congressman James Clyburn, who is my congressman. I'm in the Congressional District 6, and so they are trying to wipe out the only African American congressperson that we have, and the only one we've had since Reconstruction. And so we've got 2 tracks going. The House of Representatives actually voted on moving our primaries, because our primaries are scheduled to be on June 9th, and absentee ballots have already gone out. There's been over about 500 ballots already returned, but the House has already passed a bill that will move the primaries for congressional races to August. Our state election commission has already told them that although not impossible, it's very difficult and will cost millions of dollars to actually change the election, but the House did not care. They passed that. They actually passed new maps that will make it a 7-0 district. And then our governor actually last week came out and said that he would not call us back for a special district. Sunny Day is tomorrow for us at 5 p.m. And so the House actually added an amendment to a Sunny Day resolution to add a reason that we would come back after Sunny Day for a redistricting. The Senate yesterday, we voted, and we had all of our Democrats, and we're in a super minority. So the 12 Democrats, we had 5 Republicans who actually voted with us to include our Senate Majority Leader, voted against the Sunny Day resolution for us to come back to do redistricting. Our Senate Majority Leader actually, on the floor of the Senate, spoke against it. He spoke for about 45 minutes, said that he got a call from President Trump, said, hey, can you help me out? We need you all to do this. He even said, y'all, the quiet part out loud. He said, you all, if we pass these maps, we're going to have unintended consequences because we are going to motivate Black voters to come out and vote. He said this on the floor. We're going to motivate Black voters to come out and vote. And so we were able to defeat that. And so everybody was celebrating, but we knew that that was just delaying the inevitable. And so today, the governor has said that he plans to call us back for a special session. And the House is actually today, they're debating these new maps that will wipe out our only opportunity district. And the funny part about it is even our only minority district, it is about 47% African American and 44% white. So it actually has the least amount of a majority out of all of them. Our other districts have like 70%, white districts or overly Republican. And so it has been really, really trying for us. The other thing I just want to point out for us is that when we come back next week for the special session, they will likely push it through really quickly because the Senate, the chair of the House Judiciary is scheduled, because Sunny Day was tomorrow, so he's scheduled to be out of the country starting next Wednesday. So we are going to be pushing this through really quickly. We've got groups lined up to file legal action as soon as these maps are passed, but we likely will have maps passed, and but we'll be ready, especially with some of the things that some of the Republicans even admitted on the floor yesterday. Hopefully we will have a lot on the record to challenge these maps, but we're in the fight. And we're really pushing people to just get out and make sure that we get we prove our Senate Majority Leader right, that we have motivated not just Black voters, but everybody that wants to fight for democracy, that we motivate them to come out to vote.
Thank you so much, Senator Isaac Devine. Yes, it's a lot going on here in South Carolina. And to our next panelist, it's also a lot has been going on in the state of Georgia. We've seen Georgia have its voting rights attacked aggressively over the last couple of years. So I would love to now hear from Georgia State Representative Saira Draper.
Yes, hello, and thank you so much to Emerge for hosting this and bringing this together. So my name is Saira Draper. I'm a Georgia representative representing portions of Atlanta. I also happen to be an elections and voting rights attorney, so I am very familiar with the fight for fair and free elections and all of the tactics that the GOP has to use because they cannot win on their ideas. So we had a major development in Georgia today. The governor has announced that we're going to have a special legislative session that is starting in mid-June. And we will be voting on new maps at that time, and those maps will go into effect in 2028. So it is a little bit of a different posture than other southern states who are pushing through maps for 2026. But these maps will pass. When we go in June, these maps for 2028 will pass because the GOP has the majority in both chambers and they have the governor's mansion. And you might be asking, why aren't we changing our maps for 2026? Why aren't we doing it for this cycle? And, it's really just a matter of timing. When the Calais decision came down, we were already well within the early voting period for our primaries. So we were really precluded from being able to change our maps for 2026. But what I will tell you is I'm pretty surprised that we are coming back in June, so like a month from now, to change maps for 2028. And that says a couple of things to me. I think there's a couple insights we can draw from that. First and foremost, what it says to me is that Republicans know they are going to lose big in November, right? They are going to lose the governor's mansion. They might be losing statewide offices that they have held onto for decades. They might even lose their majority in the Georgia House. That is the only reason to explain why they are pushing through these maps now. Because if they thought they were going to hold on to their majorities, they wouldn't be worried about a Democratic governor coming in and vetoing any maps that we passed next year or in 2028. The other thing that this special session in June tells me is that they are really at the state level, the GOP is really succumbing to some national pressure. I mean, it does not surprise me to hear from my colleagues that Trump has been calling to legislators in the majority and telling them that he needs these maps now. Because by doing this special session in June before November, the GOP in Georgia is literally making their lives harder in service to Trump because there will be political backlash. There will be huge political backlash in November as a result of us doing this now in November. So or doing this now in June, excuse me. I mean, we could have done this in December. Like if a Democrat had won the governor's office in November in Georgia, we could do a special session to redraw maps in December, but they're not doing it. They're doing it now. So I think that is absolutely fascinating. And the other kind of insight I'm taking from all this is that our governor and the GOP, and by the way, the thread through all of this is desperation by the GOP, but our governor and the GOP, they are willing to throw out all kinds of precedent and do whatever it takes to cement their minority rule here in Georgia, because this is the call for a special session to redraw our maps is not necessary. So like, unlike in Louisiana, where the Supreme Court actually said your maps are unconstitutional and you had to redraw them, there is no such order here in Georgia. There is nothing about the Calais decision that triggers us having to redraw our map. And in fact, our maps right now are in litigation. We had a Section 2 Voting Rights Act claim that is pending as of 2021. So we've redistricted in Georgia. If we do this in June, which we will, it'll be the third time we redistrict in Georgia since the 2020 census. So this is totally unprecedented. We are throwing out everything that we have done in the past just so the GOP can have the advantage of redrawing the maps every time they lose a seat. And what I know for the primary, which is coming up next Tuesday, is we are going to see a huge surge of Democratic votes. We already saw this for the early voting period. We've already seen an increase in Democratic votes and a decline in Republican votes. And this decision to call a special session and redraw our maps in the middle of the game is only going to add fuel to that fire.
Thank you so much, Rep. Draper. Like I said, y'all have really been one of the several southern states that have just been getting it from all different directions when we're talking about attacks on our voting rights. And because we've been experiencing all these attacks, and particularly everything's coming together right now when we are literally voting, like some of your states are actively voting right now, it's feeling like whiplash trying to keep up. And, we're doing politics every day, but as we're trying to, educate and make people aware who don't do this every single day of what's going on, how are we, what impact is this going to actually have when we're talking about voter turnout, even the trust in the democratic process and, representation, particularly for our Black voters, as we're specifically seeing Black political power targeted? And that goes to anybody who wants to answer that.
Well, Melissa, I'll jump in. I mean, for us, yes, we are, as I mentioned, our election commission has already said that, there are hundreds of ballots that have already been returned. And we do have a primary that's June 9th. Now with if the House schedule holds, which it probably won't, because if we don't even get new maps till next week, that's going to probably push it back another 2 weeks. But they're going to move the congressional to August. But we've already said that our election commission has said the ballots cannot be changed. So when people go and vote in June, they will be voting for the people they think are running for Congress. And to tell them they got to come back in August, it's just going to be really hard. So yes, there will be voter confusion, voter suppression. Our overseas ballots, people who have returned their ballots, when they get a new ballot with a same race that they thought they voted for, and then potentially can have different names on it, they're going to be confused. And so what I think this is going to do is, number one, going to build a case for voter suppression and probably violation of voting rights throughout the South. But also, what I think we have got to learn is that we have got to make sure that we are fully educating our communities every single day, because they want us to be confused. They want people to not come out to vote, and we just can't allow them to win that.
Melissa, I want to answer as well from Alabama. Our primary actually is Tuesday, May the 19th. So we've had the same thing as the other southern states that are having to deal with this. Our military personnel have already voted, disabled, our elderly have already voted, or folks who are just not going to be available on election day. They've already voted. There's so much confusion right now. So we have a 5-2 split right now in Congress. The new maps that they'll be voting on, it'll be a 6-1. However, because they're reverting back to some previous maps, the governor had to call special elections in 4 of our congressional districts, 4, instead of just those 2 that they're trying to take away, Tennessee, 4 different special elections. So she set the qualifying for May the 22nd, which is right after our primary. And then our election also for those, if the courts don't intervene, will be in August. But absolutely, people are confused. I've had people inbox me, text me, so is there still an election next week? And I think that's on purpose. I think it is absolutely on purpose to confuse people, to keep people from coming out to the polls. But now all of us have this additional responsibility to make sure folks that know that we have at least in our state, we have our primary next week, and then possibly this additional election. And we're doing all that we can to drive the numbers up, to show them that in November, they're going to be in trouble. Again, they have woken up a sleeping giant. I even talked about it on the Senate floor, how even my plumber, who has never texted me about politics ever, texted me to say, hey, thank you so much for fighting for us. What can we do? When I get off with you all today, one of our local comedians got in contact with me earlier today, who has these kind of party eating buses. She's like, hey, I want to partner with you. What can I do in my capacity as a comedian to be a part of the movement? And so all of these people that have not been actively engaged have been energized and activated. And so I think the numbers will go up, but we do still have that argument, Senator Isaac, of them trying to suppress the vote by changing these maps and changing these these election dates.
Here in Tennessee, the election dates will stay the same. So for those with the new districts redrawn, they have opened up the qualifying deadline again. So it's this week. It opened up Monday. It closes Friday at 12 noon. For all of those who previously qualified, their qualifications are still active, so they don't have to do anything else. But now we've opened up the door for more people to run and get into these new districts as well. So we had to do it very quickly so we won't violate the MOVE Act. Our early voting starts in July with the election day on August 6th and the general election in November. So nothing has changed, but the races have gotten a little harder. In Tennessee, when they passed these congressional maps and broke state law just to do this, they also put a clause in there that said that they will not send out notifications to voters who congressional districts have changed. So now people are still going to go vote in the primary coming up in just 12 weeks. And they are going to expect to be voting for one candidate. Well, we'll get to the ballot box and see they're voting for others that they may not be aware of, or they may think they're going to vote in one congressional district, but they're actually now in another. But again, I will have to share the sentiments. I think they have brought a storm and awakened a sleeping giant. Again, while their attempt to make 9 Republican districts, they make 3 of them more blue. So if Memphis is listening, if Memphis is energized, we will go ahead and register to vote and mobilize in unprecedented numbers, and those districts can be competitive. So this is also a call to action to all of those investing in Tennessee or looking at what's going on with Tennessee, because we were the first. Invest in candidates like myself and others who are running in the new congressional districts to make them regret the decisions they have made to redraw these congressional districts. I shared our Republican colleagues, many of them did not want to do this. Why? They too recognize this will create unintended consequences. This means their districts are now becoming more blue, and they understand that they are going to piss off so many Black people in Memphis and in its suburban areas that they could lose their districts. So what we're seeing is people are starting to pay attention. People are starting to galvanize. But unfortunately, we have a shortened window to allow people to run for these congressional seats because the election dates have not changed. They are staying consistent. That's the only good thing is the election dates are staying consistent, but people don't really know what their new congressional districts are. And I will also add, because they weren't required to mail out notifications like they typically do when the districts change, that the election commissions are required to put them on the website. The problem with that is, and like many southern states, our states are still very rural. So there are certain parts of the states that don't even have broadband access. People don't even have internet access, so they can't even access the information online to find out what congressional district they live in. They will be going to the polls blindly, and we hope for the best.
Well, I'm glad you talked about a call to action. I know, I think everybody on this call is probably frustrated. And that frustration is hopefully leading to us all figuring out what's our next step. And so we're seeing, we've been seeing for years now that the courts are not protecting voting rights. And, this is just one of many blows over the last couple of years to our voting rights. So if the courts aren't the answer, where does the fight move now?
Well, I was waiting on somebody else to answer because I've answered already.
Oh, I'll jump in if
There we go.
Yeah, so I think look, you can't gerrymander statewide. That's why
Yeah.
Georgia, which is, a purple state, it has 2 great blue United States senators, right? You cannot gerrymander statewide. So we have an opportunity in our May election, which is coming up next Tuesday, May 19th, to elect 2 Supreme Court justices who share a lot of the values that I know most people in Georgia have. We've been playing fast and loose with our Supreme Court appointments, where Supreme Court justices have been retiring, and then the governor gets to appoint the next Supreme Court justice, and then the next time they have to run, they already have that I by their name. So we haven't had a Supreme Court justice who believes in things like reproductive freedom for a very, very long time. But we have 2 Supreme Court justices, Miracle Rankin and Jen Jordan, who are running to be Supreme Court justices in Georgia. They're on the ballot in May, and that is something that every voter can vote for and push people like that who share our values into power. That no amount of gerrymandering can change that. And we have to look for opportunities like that in order to change things. And look, looking at the state Supreme Courts, it is going to have an impact on voting rights. Because they're the ones that fundamentally decide on the constitutionality and the legal aspects of our state laws. And as you all know, most election laws are done at the state level. In Georgia, we don't have any prohibitions against mid-cycle redistricting, right? And we don't have independent redistricting commissions. But these are things that we could change at the state level. And our Supreme Courts and our courts within the state system would be the ones determining all aspects of legalities of those laws.
would just add because my background prior to serving in elective office, and I've been serving for 24 years now, but I was a community organizer and economic justice strategist. So we just have to take it back to the streets. That's what we have to, and organize and build coalition. One of my personal frustrations has been with low income white folks in our state for many, many years that continue to vote against their own interests. So we're going to have to take the time to organize, to go to communities and meet people where they are, to talk in the language that they understand so they can know who are the folks that are actually fighting on behalf of them and who are the folks that are not. And in Alabama, the Alabama Republicans have continued to, pass legislation and now, of course, this special session to protect political power and not pass things that help the working families in the state of Alabama. And we've got to get on our bully pulpit and we've got to tell that story over and over again. Instead of doing things to put more money into the pockets of Alabamians and other Southerners, for my other Southerners here, those Republicans have chosen to create these maps to gain or steal political power. Gas last week was $4.39 a gallon here. We don't have a state lottery, which we've been wanting to pass, and the voters have said they wanted to have the opportunity to vote on it, to pay for free education, to pay for free college, to help pay for Medicaid. And Alabama Republicans didn't give anybody the opportunity to vote on those types of legislation. They voted to protect political power. So we've got to go back to the streets, tell the story, build that coalition, and get them back out to the polls.
Thank you. So I mentioned feeling overwhelmed. It's a lot going on. Every time I turn on the TV, open up social media, look at the news, it's a lot coming at us right now. And so I'm wondering I think again, all of us hopefully are still in this fight, but what is giving you hope to stay in the fight? What is that bright spot or where are you pulling that hope from right now to be able to do this work?
I'll go on this one. So this weekend was supposed to be the primary election. We're moving that back in the fall, but there are 5 amendments on the ballot, and the same thing happened last year. And they're all, anti-civil service, stealing money from, retirement funds, all terrible things. They are going down, like crashing down. I mean, they were probably going to fail anyway. Also, London Devante says hello. It's one of my closest friends. I know he almost got thrown out the room at 4:30 in the morning.
I understand. Tell him I said hello.
Yeah. But they're crashing because people are so mad, and it's the one thing they can do right now. And we Democrats in major cities, Baton Rouge and New Orleans, did that last year with 5 of the governor's bad amendments. And we're trying to make sure we hold that, because they're mad right now, but people go back to jobs and work, and people have a lot to do. But they're seeing this, and they're seeing civil rights and voting rights and things that they didn't think were going to happen, even though we've been seeing it happen. So that has been powerful, that there were people sitting in the Senate until 4:30 in the morning to testify. I mean, I can't even imagine how long we would have been if it happened today. So I hate that it takes something like this to move people, but they're moving. I mean, I wonder how many people from Louisiana are on the call. So I echo what y'all are saying. I mean, Tennessee, like I've been watching that every day, like turning it on. It is impressive what you're doing. It really is. But I think we need to figure out how to harness this. And for us, our state elections are next year. And we're all telling people we need to go recruit, because that's what they do. They go recruit, they find the school board member to run for the legislature, to run for Congress. That's how this always happens. And we need to do that everywhere. So there's my 2 cents.
Phyllis, if I can jump in, I'd say also what gives me hope are these young people. I mean, I think we've talked so much about how, when we say, people die for your right to vote, and, a lot of young people that they don't have that connection, but they do understand that your rights are being stripped away in front of your faces, and they're galvanized, they're angry. I mean, you know this, Melissa. We had, you know, a gubernatorial candidate who literally called our students, some of our students at one of our HBCUs, a woke mob, and you know, and they like galvanized and did they fought that with voter registration at graduation. And so we had a Black Voters Matter organizer, 21-year-old, who spoke at the House Judiciary yesterday. And so that's what's giving me hope. These young people are on fire, and I do think that we are going to see record turnout. And the thing about these maps are they base these maps and the numbers on voting history. And the numbers that they have used actually are data when Trump was on the ballot. He's not on the ballot in November. And so there are going to be people who were galvanized by Trump that will not come out, but people who are galvanized by seeing their rights being taken from them who will come out. And so I'm inspired by these young people who are ready to hit the ground. And I think that we are going to see record turnout.
I want to build off
So,
that because that was going to be my point. I would say they did not do a good job, and I'm a numbers girl. They based the redrawing off the 2024 numbers, but what they did not do is look at the other historical years. And in Tennessee right now, Republicans are frustrated because the Republicans in the rural areas are also on food stamps. Trump cut their food stamps. They are also poor, and they can't afford gas. We are the bottom of the nation in education funding. They don't like the vouchers, so they're not happy with their Republican leadership. But for example, in the congressional district I'm running in now, they didn't look at the 2018 numbers. It was also a mid-Trump year that year. And our Democratic candidate lost by 1,000 votes, even with moderate turnout. And so with Republican turnout going down and Democratic turnout going up, we are mobilized. We are excited in Tennessee because we got a real shot. A real shot. The numbers are closer than what they think. They did not do a good job of carving this out to make it safe Republican districts because we guarantee you Democrats go turn out more than Republicans.
thank you. Thank you. So, we have a couple of minutes before VP joins us. I do want to ask one last question in one sentence, y'all. One sentence. What does real political power and representation looks like, when our communities are fully heard and fully represented? Anybody who wants to go first, but I want to hear from all of you.
I think on issues when I see some of my moderate Republicans listening, that's better representation because they recognize that they do have purple districts. I'm not going to convince them on many things. They have a supermajority, but on some of these issues, when you know you got through, everyone's better off on those. It's hard. Sorry, that's 3 sentences.
No, that is fine. That is great. Thank you. Thank you. Who else wants to go? And y'all can give me more than one sentence. So.
I'll give you one sentence, but it doesn't directly answer your question. But when I think about voting and when I think about the attacks on voting, I just keep going back to they wouldn't be trying so hard to strip away your votes if your vote wasn't so important. And I think everyone has to remember that because I think it's so easy in these times to feel despondent and to feel resigned and to feel like the cards are stacked against us. And you know what? They are. They are. But what I have seen in Georgia over and over and over again is that when they put up obstacles in front of us, we organize, we get over those obstacles, and we're so freaking mad, we take two of our friends with us. So they actually make us stronger by doing this to us. And we just have to remember the importance of our vote.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to just add, since we cannot actually answer the question, I want to say that this past week was amazing for me. Many times as a Democratic Black woman serving in the Alabama legislature, I have felt alone on a lot of the issues that impact my community, whether it's education, gun rights. I'm in an open carry state, and I had legislation for many years now, just red flag, just get those guns out of the hands of people who show to be a threat to themselves and others, all kinds of legislation through years. And I felt alone. My seatmate, Senator Linda Coleman Madison, she said something this week, and she said to the protesters, "You have been the wind beneath our wings." And so that what has lifted me and us through this week and beyond. Again, so many fights where we were there fighting on behalf of the downtrodden, the disenfranchised, and all Alabamians, and nobody heard about it. Nobody heard about it. This week, everyone heard it. And so we do have to meet this moment right now, why people are listening and why they are engaged. We have to get them organized. And let me invite every last one of you to Montgomery, Alabama this Saturday on the steps of the Capitol. Right now, I know there are 60 buses coming in from all over because all roads are going to Montgomery this weekend to show that we're not going to take this. We're going to fight. And this coalition is going to win. London, you were exactly right. They did not bank on people getting this energized. They didn't bank on it. So again, we have 4 congressional districts that have, if the courts don't intervene, will end up having a new primary. That is 4 opportunities to have some Democratic leadership in Montgomery that we didn't have before. So I'm going to use that as the silver lining, and we're going to all continue to fight together.
Thank you. And
I guess that's me. I would say, and I always say this, elections have consequences. And I think for me, the sentence that I have is that we have got to understand that this is our moment. Every generation has their moment, and this is our moment. And we were made for this time. And so I just think that people have to understand that the power lies within us. And too many times we gave up our power, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. But now we see that the power that we have, and I'm excited to see us finally use that power.
wonderful. And to wrap us up before we are joined by VP, Senator Lamar.
Thank you. I'm just so energized by the way my Democratic caucus set the playbook for the nation of how we unify in this unprecedented moment. We showed that regardless of where you sit in the Big Ten Democratic Party, when it's time to come together, when it's time to work together, and when it's time to fight together, we know what's most important. It's never our personal ambitions. It's about defending our community. And I am so hopeful that this moment has finally brought the Democratic Party together. As fractured as we are, whether you're super progressive, super moderate, or super conservative Democrat, together, if we link arms and fight together, we will win.
Thank you for that. And y'all, it's a lot of work to do, but we have come a long way. I think about my grandmother who was born in 1923. And, when she was born, we didn't have the right to vote then. And her and her generation fought for it. Unfortunately, we're having to continue the fight now. But I have to have hope that we will continue this fight. We will gain our rights back and continue to move forward. Because remember, at one point, the idea of all of us sitting on this space, all of you holding the seats that you hold, was nothing but a dream, and here we are. So yes, I am happy for and we are cutting down the minutes of the second that VP will be joining us. So any closing thoughts or additional thoughts while we're waiting?
Yeah. Just again, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, the belly of the civil rights movement, and served with my colleagues. And I'm thinking about Rob Stewart, who represents Selma and Bloody Sunday, and he's 36. I'm 52, and I know there are folks that are younger on here as well. I used to wonder if I was alive during the movement, what would I have done? Would I have marched the streets of Birmingham? Would I have been one of the songbirds like my grandfather was? Would I have sat at a lunch counter? Would I have participated in a boycott? What would I have done? None of us can wonder anymore because we're in the moment right now. We have the opportunity right now because we have the playbook. We've won before. We're going to have to pull that playbook back out and use it again. So we don't have to wonder anymore. I don't have to wonder. My mother told me stories about in Birmingham as a student at Western Olin High School and having to jump out of the windows to go march the streets of Birmingham. I don't have to wonder anymore. My time is right now. Our time is now.
Thank you, Senator Coleman. And speaking of our time is now, it is now my honor to introduce someone who has spent her career fighting for the people, protecting fundamental rights, and y'all breaking barriers at every level of leadership. As the 49th Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris made history as the first woman, the first Black American, and the first South Asian American elected to serve in the role. Throughout her career, from district attorney to attorney general, United States Senator, and Vice President, she has consistently spoken out for voting rights, equal representation, and the protection of our democracy. Tonight, we are especially grateful for her voice, her leadership, and her continued commitment to this fight. Y'all, please welcome me and join me in welcoming former Vice President Kamala Harris. Thank you. VP, you're muted.
Okay. There, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Melissa, thank you so very much. And to everyone, to the legislators, I thank you for your courage, for your commitment, for your fight, for just all that you are doing to model what this moment requires from all of us. But y'all are, you're living in some tough neighborhoods right now. And so I just want to send you all my best in terms of just please continue to have the faith, to have the fight, and to know that you have so much support. And Melissa and all the Emerge people, I thank you for what you do. Everyone who is a part of this call, if you have not supported Emerge before, please do. If you are thinking about running for office, be in touch with Emerge and let them help you figure out how to do it. But this organization is so dear to me, and the work that you do in training and preparing women to lead and to continue in their roles of leadership through elected office is so critically important. So look, so the Supreme Court just, has gutted the Voting Rights Act. And what they have done is really a part of an agenda that has been decades in the making. The sister from Alabama was just talking about it. We know this. This is in a long line of 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 conscious, intentional conduct that has been about making it more difficult, if not impossible, in particular for Black folks and these days Black and brown folks, making it more difficult for them to vote. I've been traveling the country, spent a lot of time in the South actually, and people ask me from time to time, well, you think they're going to try and cancel the elections? No, I don't think they're going to try and do that because, if you thought those No Kings rallies were big, people will really take to the street then. They're not going to try and cancel the elections. But the reason people ask that is because we all know that the American people are not stupid. And they're paying attention to what's happening with gas prices. They're paying attention to this war nobody wanted or asked for. They're paying attention to inflation going up, unemployment going up. And so it is very likely, given the merit of the issue, that they are in a losing position around the midterms. So what have they then resolved to do? Cheat based on an agenda and a playbook that has been a long time in the making around how do you make elections more difficult, access to the polls more difficult for the people, because they are afraid of the power of the people. But what they are also doing is with this decision in Calais, what they have done, and it was predictable. This is why they've also been trying to eliminate, teaching America's history, right? Whitewashing America's history. So they could arrive at a day where they could say, oh, these are not issues anymore in America. So let's forget the history and then look at how it has impacted the present. We're going to pretend that this is not an issue anymore. But what they have done with this decision by saying the politics of redistricting is okay is they are backdooring racism through politics. And what they are doing is intentionally about trying to suppress the voice of the people. And so we have a playbook that our forefathers and mothers taught us, and it is about protest, it is about marching, it is about speaking up. But I will also say, and we've got to also invite and agree that we need new ideas that are about being bold. And yes, it may be about assuming some risk. And so I'm inviting us all to basically say, look, let's engage in a good old-fashioned round table where we agree there are no bad ideas. And let's invite then approaches and ideas that are about, for example, Supreme Court reform, including the notion of expanding the court. Let's invite a discussion about how do we, and if so, how do we push for statehood for Puerto Rico and DC? How are we thinking about the Electoral College? I'm talking about how do we think about when we gain the majority in the Senate, looking at Senate judiciary and them having rules in place that when some nominee for the Supreme Court goes up before them and starts lying, that there will be consequence and accountability. How are we thinking about should there be a code of ethics and rules of ethics for members of the United States Supreme Court? These are the kinds of things that we have to, I think, all of us say we're willing to take the risk to create a space to have this conversation. And we're willing to agree there's no bad ideas. Let's invite the ideas and really seriously consider them and think about new approaches in addition to the playbook that we know has been a playbook that we always will be committed to. But, frankly, we've got to neutralize this red state cheating. And it's going to include and have to include, again, in terms of the ideas and what we're willing to do to say, and so blue states, figure out how you're going to expand the map. This is what we need to do. Look, they are playing to win. And we have to play to win. And we will always be true to what we know is right in terms of what is morally right, certainly what is legally right, what is ethically right. But there's a brutality at play on the other side and a ruthlessness. And we need to play to win. So thank you for inviting me to join you. But this is how I'm thinking about this moment. And look, fundamentally, the power is with the people, and that is what scares them. That is what scares them. They are afraid of the power of the people as expressed to their vote. And through their vote, they know that the people will speak if they have access. But they're doing everything they can to make that more difficult. I'll give you as one example, and then I'll close my comments. So I've been traveling in the South, and so I'd been hearing about these students at North Carolina A&T who've been organizing. So I decided to go down to North Carolina A&T, which is the largest HBCU in the country, to visit with them. And I sat down with these students, these bright young leaders, it was about a dozen of them. And they're organizing, and you know why they're organizing? Because at North Carolina A&T, the largest HBCU in the country, the authorities took their polling place from their campus. Took their polling place. Now, Doug and I have two young adults as our children. And one of the things we all know is, especially when our children are like age 18 through 24, college age, that's when we really want to focus on making sure they're forming good habits about what kind of responsible and civically engaged adult they will be. And one of the things we do even before they're eligible to vote is we take them to the polling place with us when they are children to remind them that this is part of your civic duty and right. Yet these so-and-sos took that polling place from these young leaders because they are so afraid that when our young people start weighing in, they will be weighing in for change. And it scares these people. The power of the people scares these people. But here's the bottom line. When you feel powerless, I believe you are powerless. When you feel powerful, you are powerful. And we are powerful. So thank you all, Emerge. I'm just so happy to be with you this afternoon, evening. And please, everybody, be well. Take care of yourselves. Let's hold each other close, all right? We got a lot of work to do. We are powerful. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much, Vice President Harris. I think we all need to hear that tonight. Y'all, thank you to our panelists, to all of our alum who are doing the work in the communities across the country. And thank you to all of you for joining us tonight and celebrating and supporting Emerge and the work that we are doing. Y'all, it's a lot of work, but we are here to do it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Melissa. Is there a way or a link that folks can, if they came in late, could see the entire event?
Yes.
I
Yes, we have recorded it and we are going to upload it to our YouTube, and everybody that registered, we will send them over a link. So we will get that. It'll take a little bit to upload and download, but we will send it over in a follow-up email to everybody that comes. And
Thank you
thank you.
so much. So to everybody listening right now, I will put it on my page as soon as it is available. Signing off.
thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
all. And y'all, sisters, y'all keep y'all prayed up and we will win.
Let's do
Wonderful.
this again and yell at the
Melissa, try to
national
get us on
party.
a text message too, so all of us can kind of encourage each other and see what's going on in our respective states. I think that would be great and be encouraging for me at least.
We can make that happen. Thank
We-
y'all.
Thank you,
We
ladies.
need the national party down here on everything. The national
Bad.
party needs to be down here.
Bad. Yes, absolutely, Mandie.
Thank
Y'all
y'all.
take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.